If you are in any of the Home Education UK Facebook groups, then you have recently seen it all popping off about how Joe Wicks is planning to home educate his daughter. So she's done year R, reception year, and he was planning not to send her back in for year 1. It caused a lot of conversation, like mostly positive, but it made me think actually there's some other UK celebs that have been on the home education circuit for a while, and I found this video of Nadia Sawalha explaining on Loose Women why she chose to home educate, and I thought we could watch it together and see what these celeb types are saying.
There's been a rise in the number of parents choosing to take their children out of school and educate them at home.
I would just say this was like 7 years ago, I think. I would double check on that. Is homeschooling fair on children? Is school fair on children? Let's ask ourselves.
Nadia, there's an interview with you today in the Mirror.
Yes,
isn't it? Because this is exactly what you've done with both your daughters now. What made you decide the first time?
Because I spoke about this about a year ago when I first took Kiki B out, my youngest one, and actually now I've taken Maddie out as well, so both of them have been out of school now for a year. Home educated, not homeschooled, because it's nothing like school.
Okay, first off, I love the point that she makes that distinction between homeschooling and home education. We've definitely spoken about that on this channel before, so far so good. Hang on, I just need to go and shut the door because I can hear all the rain. Summer holidays here in the UK and it's rain, rain, rain.
You don't even say homeschooling now, you don't?
No, I don't say homeschooling, I say home educating. Oh God, what? Well, first of all, I think Mark and I made a big mistake in thinking the very best thing that we could do for our children was work really hard, save lots of money and send them to private school. I regret that. I really, really regret that. It was wrong for my kids.
I mean, that's not a bad way of thinking, is it? Like, a lot of us are always led to believe that private school is like the pinnacle of education, so I don't think she can be criticised for thinking that.
It was very, very academic, very hardworking. You know, right from 6 years old, they were coming home with an hour's homework, and then eventually with Maddie, it was 2.5 hours homework. And one day I just thought, and they were getting really stressed. They were not happy children. They weren't the children that I originally sent to school. Now that school was brilliant for lots of other kids. It just wasn't right for mine. So I thought, wow, every day I'm handing over my children to people, a lot of them I don't particularly like, and they're now bringing up my children. I just wish there was another way. My daughter's stressed, she's crying all day, she never cries at home, she cries all day at school. What can I do? Initially took her out just while I try and find another school.
She was academically struggling, or she just didn't
She
like
was
the
academic.
school environment?
Oh no, she loved the school environment, she got on with people, socially fine, but just the school environment wasn't right for her. She's partially sighted in one eye. She got behind in the first year and then she couldn't catch up.
I think this is one thing like we always talk about as home educators, and this concept of like behindness that is really instilled in school, and like the minute you can't keep up with the one way that everyone is being taught, you suddenly considered as falling behind, and it's just such a dangerous sort of narrative, I always think, to like feed into children. And like, it's no wonder she was getting upset, really.
That school, though, or what about any other school? There might have been another school that she would have been more comfortable in.
Like I didn't want to put her in another private school because I don't think the private system is right for my kids. And then, as a lot of people find, I couldn't get her in any of the schools that I liked in the area. And I didn't want to send her to a school I didn't like, that I felt really uncomfortable myself as a grown adult walking in. It felt aggressive and weird and didn't want to. So I started off by thinking I would just get her into another school, and then it's gone so brilliantly.
How? What do you do?
Well, I don't teach her.
That's so like attacking, isn't it? Like, how though? What do you do? Like, it's like automatically you're like, this other lady seems to be like on the defensive about like, how could you possibly not send your children to school? Like,
she goes to... Yeah, can you imagine? What I would say, I have a really amazing... It's hard work, that's for sure, because whenever I'm not here, I'm with them 24/7. Because, you know, it's quite nice sometimes waving your kids off at night.
That's the thing that put me off.
Yeah, so... not saying goodbye. Yeah, so...
I see this, I get this narrative a lot, like, with other friends, and I almost feel like it's become like a thing that you feel like you have to say, like, oh gosh, I couldn't spend all that time with my kids. And like, if if you're the one that says like, actually I quite like spending all that time with my kids, I can't imagine them going for like 6 hours a day, you get looked at like you're like some sort of alien parent. Like it's almost just, and I sometimes think people who say, oh, I couldn't spend all that time with my kids, don't, like, do they really believe that, or is that just sort of like this narrative that goes on now that like you're a weirdo if you want to spend like a lot of time with your kids? Like, let me know if you've heard that as well, if you're a home educator, because I get it a lot.
Can I ask, how is this monitored? How is this monitored? Because, you know, people here who send their kids to school, if they don't go to school, you've got to ring up and say they're not in today because of X and provide evidence.
You just deregister them. You just you can, and there are lots of people whose children have never been to school, so they're not even on the register. So there's actually far more home educated children.
But are the authorities not all over you like a rash, saying, "Are you following a curriculum?"
I mean, some of them are, if you've watched my video about how the council turned up on my doorstep. But again, this is like, I feel like they're doing all the cliches right now, because this is the other narrative that comes up, like, well, how is this regulated? How is this monitored? Like, obviously, like, all these home educators must be abusing their children behind closed doors. Like, you must monitor them. Like,
contact with the council that deals with home education, because I want to be. So she's helpful. I go and meet her every couple of months. We talk. She gives me advice.
But legally,
legally, I do not have to do that.
Okay, so I know you really well. I know that you embrace this wholeheartedly. I know your girls are fantastic. I know that you do proper homeschooling and you make sure that they do.
But
what about the lazy so-and-sos who just can't be bothered to take their kids to school or can't be bothered to educate their children? Are you telling me that they are not monitored by any authority?
No.
Yeah, I know.
I find that astonishing.
I would say today that's not entirely correct, because we do have the children missing in education department, or at least my old local authority did, which was very evident, like, when they turned up on my doorstep. I will stop going on about that one day. But I don't know. Again, it all varies by local authority, and like I said, this was 7 years ago, so I don't know. But again, it's just, I don't know. I just don't like this narrative that always comes up about, like, obviously all homeschoolers are just letting their, or like, I think the proportion of homeschoolers that are letting their kids just stay at home and watch TV all day because they can't be bothered to take them to school is like that. And they're not actually home educators, they're just people not sending their kids to school, right?
But think about it, the schools are packed, aren't they? Why is the government going to force people that want to send people to school that they don't want to? Actually, it is actually the parents' responsibility. I think it's. I looked this up actually because I thought I'd impress Jane with this. I've got a figure. 1996 Education Act states that it's actually the parents' responsibility to educate their children. So I have to prove that that my children are getting an education, but they do not have to follow the curriculum. Nobody is obliged.
Who are you proving it to?
Yeah, she's before this lady harps in again. She's got that right. Like, the Education Act does state that it's the parents' responsibility to ensure that their children receive a full-time education suitable to their age and aptitude, and that does not have to be at school. So yes, Nadia, for getting that in. What's this other one going to go on about?
Yeah, well, I do to the woman that I see from the council, and she knows.
You choose to go.
I choose to, but I don't have to if I don't want to. It's my responsibility to make sure my
children
children
conform to the curriculum. So I go, well, what happens when your girls go into the workplace?
Okay,
so they're all told now, the kids, you know, it's really important about your GCSEs and grades now.
Yeah, but we're led to believe that the only way you can go to uni,
you have to have those qualifications to get to uni, don't you?
Yeah, well, we're led to believe that the only way
Because uni is all that you can do, isn't it? That is the be-all and end-all.
get into university with A-levels. We have to, because we can only have one system that fits all, because we've got so many children that we've got to educate. It's not actually true. I know lots of home educated people that have got into universities and colleges on what they on their interviews and what they know, and so my girls are going to do a couple of GCSEs, but they're not going to do 11. Because they don't need 11 GCSEs. And I've seen my stepdaughters with all the stress of that.
But they do if they wanted to be a doctor.
Yeah, but they don't want to be a doctor.
Right.
Yeah, so if they knew they wanted to do that, she would make sure.
My daughters, there's no way they're going to be doctors. But
I mean, this is something that comes up a lot already. Like, my twins are 5.5, and the amount of times I get asked, what about GCSEs? Like, give us a freaking minute. It's like, yes, home educated children can do GCSEs if they want to. Like, that is totally on the table. So many, like, there are hundreds of home educated children that go on to university. They do GCSEs, even at home doing GCSEs. They might go to college to do A-levels and then to a university, obviously, to get a degree. Like, that's totally on the table. Don't panic, people. Home ed kids can do GCSEs, but as Nadia says, like, we're not gonna, I think I did like 12 GCSEs or something. Like, it's ridiculous in hindsight. And then you probably use like 3 to 5 of those GCSEs to get on to the A-level courses you want to do. And after that, nobody cares about your GCSEs. I don't think I've ever been asked about my GCSEs for jobs, or even my uni application. I'm not even sure if that was a big deal in that, but yeah, 12 is ridiculous.
Well, what about social interaction? Social, I mean, they socialise, it's like Kiki.
Obviously that was going to be the next cliche to come out.
They choose, oh, it's so nice to choose my friends. I didn't really like any of the ones at school, because they get to go out every single day. They have more socialising than they did at school because they've chosen their friends.
And what about, you talk about the system, but what about, as Ruth said, the system when you want to get a job? There is a system. You have to be there at 8:30 a.m. You have to do this, that and the other. How are your girls going to react?
Sorry, I'm just laughing because I've literally just heard all of these before. Like, let's come up with something original to ask home educators, guys. Like,
without having not had that structure in their life up to that point.
One of the reasons why a lot of universities actually seek out home educated children because they are self-motivated. They are already arriving with a strong sense of what they have to do. Because my child was like an automaton. You know, what do I do? What do I say? Shall I do my homework now? Shall I do? And now they are much more responsible for themselves than they were when they were at school.
Regrets at all.
No regrets, and they're going to stay that way unless they suddenly say to me they want to go back to school.
like, I think, to be fair, Nadia handled that pretty well. Like, these other women came out with all the cliches that all us home educators have heard before. You know, who's going to teach them? What about socialisation? How are they going to get a job? Like I said, we need to come up with some more original questions, I think, to ask home educators, because we've time and time again now proved that all of those factors are not real, legit factors in why you should not home educate. And if anything, everything that these people come and criticise about, we can actually demonstrate home education is better for them. Those things, it's better for socialisation. Like Nadia said, a lot of universities and higher education institutions now are seeking out home educators because they know that they are much more able to manage their own learning than school children who've just been told what to learn and when to learn it their entire lives. So yeah, like I said, that was let me double check this, I keep going on about 7 years. That was 7 years ago. And I think Nadia handled those questions really well. I'd be interested to see if she's still home educating or not, how that's going for her. But yeah, chat in the comments, have you heard all those questions before? I'm sure you have. What are the ones that annoy you most when you get asked about, and how do you respond to them? Because I'm still kind of new to home education, so I'm always keen to hear what are some good responses to these typical questions that home educators get asked. Hope you're all doing well, and I'll see you on the next video.